Okay, so today's episode, it has to have a trigger warning on it. We're going to be talking about the case of Joyce Grayson, who was the home health nurse who was killed on duty on October 28th by her patient, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly just for legality purposes. In this episode, we're going to discuss the timeline of what occurred on October 28th as best as we can from what we know now. We're going to talk about the home health company's response to what happened and what occurred that day. And we're also going to talk about how we move forward as a community of home health clinicians, and how we're going to make changes so that safety becomes a top priority for companies, because we're the boots on the ground. And the reason things like this happen is because there aren't safeguards in place, or enough safeguards in place for clinicians out in the field. And there will continue to be a nursing shortage if companies and facilities do not increase safety for staff, because workplace violence against healthcare workers is becoming an increasing issue, and it's getting to a peak where a lot of healthcare workers don't want to be at bedside anymore. So let's get started. So recently our community lost a beautiful soul. Her name was Joyce Grayson. She was an LPN who worked home health out of Connecticut. Before she did home health, though, she worked for the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction. She also worked at Norwich Hospital, and then she worked for the Southeastern Mental Health Authority. So she had a definite passion for mental health issues, which is a huge need, and it's such an underserved population. The most important piece of Joyce, however, was that she was a mom of 6. She was a foster mom to dozens. Literal angel on earth, this lady was, and it's a tragedy. And it's a wake-up call. So now Joyce worked for a company called Alara Caring, and we're going to get more into them later on in the video. But they are basically a conglomerate healthcare company who bought out like dozens of home health, hospice, I think even some long-term care facilities around the country. They have over 200 plus locations. Now, we're going to talk more about them later on, and we're going to talk about the response. And it's very typical of corporate healthcare. Let me tell you that. Okay, so what happened? On October 28th, Joyce got called out to a halfway house, aka what they call a transitional house for sex offenders. There were 3 sex offenders living there. One of them was her patient, and it was someone she had seen before. So I guess, in the company's eyes, maybe there was no need for a joint visit, but this person was freshly out of probation, only had been living in the house since August of 2023. So in my eyes, I'm going to say it was a whole lot of company neglect. Why was she going into those visits alone in that house? The house had no security. There was no staff. So it was just 3 individuals in that house. So this was like a weekend call, I guess. It was a Saturday. So this was like an on-call sort of thing. And so, it was supposed to be just a quick 8-minute visit. Hours had gone by, and Joyce's family called. They hadn't heard from her in hours. So that was around 2 p.m. that they called. And so police went over to the transitional house, which is in Willimantic, Connecticut. And it's called the Reach House, REACH. It's an abbreviation for something. And as far as we know at this point, we're unaware if Joyce had any idea what the background of her patient was. Normally in home health, and I know in hospice, background checks aren't a thing. We're not doing Corey checks on our patients. So he had an ankle monitor on, so I don't know. Whoever did his admission knew. Okay. So after the Willimantic police received the call from Joyce's family, they went to the house and did basically like a knock and look around for an hour. They were at this house waiting for somebody to answer the door. And when somebody didn't answer the door after an hour, they left. Okay? They left. Knowing that the last person Joyce was with was this patient, knowing this patient's background, okay, knowing that Joyce hadn't been seen from or heard from in hours, had not gone to any of her appointments, which is very unlike her. They left. There was no plan to follow up, except when this patient's probation officer called and saying the GPS monitoring bracelet has been tampered with. He tried to get it off. So then the police went back. This was around 3:15 in the afternoon. So a whole almost hour and a half has gone by since Joyce was reported missing. Her appointment with this patient was at 8 o'clock in the morning. So you're telling me that the police, I don't know. I'm not one to tell people to do their jobs. I work in healthcare. A lot of people try to tell us how to do our jobs. But when I do a welfare check on a patient who hasn't been heard or seen from in an hour or a couple hours, I call the police asking for a welfare check and they bust in. I don't know. I wouldn't say they bust in. You know, it's not that dramatic, but I don't know. Why didn't they do more? Why didn't they just go in? Knowing that this house is specifically for those types of offenders, and that Joyce was there alone, what happened? I mean, you literally knock and look around for an hour for somebody? This patient had been on and off of, you know, the Connecticut's judiciary and probationary officers' radars like pretty much his entire adult life. And you're going to tell me that if your sister was the nurse who went to there, or your mother or your wife was in there with that patient, that was the last place she was, you would leave? I don't know. So I have conflicting stories on what happened following when the police got to the halfway house after they received the call from the probationary officer. So bear with me here. So one source states that police found Joyce in the basement of the house, of the transitional house, okay? And then they caught the suspect. I will not be referring to him as a patient or by his name because he does not need to be spoken of. I'm not going to make him famous. They caught him trying to flee the scene after she was found. And then another source says that the suspect was taken into custody trying to slip out the back door. I'm sorry. Again, I'm not one to tell people how to do their jobs, but how is it that this man was able to sneak out the back door when there were actual police officers coming across a murder scene? Did they not secure the scene? Why would they not secure him? Or any of them, because they're all on probation. Everybody in that house is on probation. So immediately, if I was looking, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll have to see. If there's anything that comes out about this, I will update. So when they finally take the suspect into custody, he's carrying Joyce's credit cards, debit cards. He has a key to her car. He has on him also a paring knife. He is a felon, so he is not allowed to have any sort of weapon on him, but keep that in mind. Also, he had some drug paraphernalia. So at the time, and currently still, the suspect is only being charged with use of drug paraphernalia, 6th-degree larceny in violation of probation. He's being held on $1 million bond. There shouldn't have been a bond. Is that a thing? There shouldn't have been a bond. Or it should have been an incredibly unreasonable amount. The fact that he's not even being charged right now he has been named a suspect in her murder. But be fucking for real. Who else? I know there has to be a process, but like, really, at this point, it's slow going, because here we are today on November 6th. Okay, and there have been, from what I can tell, no charges brought upon this man. So it's slow going. This happened a week ago. Okay. The severity of what happened to Joyce is immense. The Willimantic police chief called the case, and I quote, deeply troubling on many levels and one of the worst cases I have seen in 27 years of law enforcement. Why? So now we're going to move on to the company. We're going to move on to the name of the company. The name of the company Joyce worked for is currently Alara Caring. Alara seems to be a conglomerate corporate megahead of healthcare. They bought out hundreds of home health, hospice, and I think some long-term care facilities since the merge of National Home Healthcare, Great Lakes Caring, and Jordan Healthcare in 2018. So they pride themselves on trying to be like this big conglomerate of moving forward with technology in healthcare and implementing technology in healthcare. So whatever. But what bothers me the most about this company, and get ready for this because this is going to piss a lot of people off, is that in the days following the murder of their employee on the job, okay, by her patient, allegedly, they didn't post one single thing about her. Okay, they were posting job listings, dozens of job listings on their Facebook. And then finally, almost a week after Joyce's, I think it was Friday. So almost a week after Joyce's murder, they posted a little in memoriam on their Facebook, which led to a link on their, home, on their company page. This is their memoriam. Oh, there goes all my research. It's a little candle with in memoriam to Joyce Grayson. And then if you click the link, I'll try to link as much of this down below as I can so you guys can look for yourself. If you click the link, it takes you to their website where they have a little blurb about it. And when you go onto Alara Caring's main website, there's no mention of it. So I'm not sure how to get there from the main website. All I know is I went to the Facebook page and followed the link from there, because if you're on their main website, you're not going to find it. But what was interesting, after they posted dozens of jobs and they finally made their statement, in the statement that they have on their website, so included was a link to a memoriam on their company page, including the statement, "As we move through this period of shock and grief and begin to turn our attention to where we go from here, the safety and well-being of our team members continue to be a paramount concern." Be fucking for real. "Even with the many safeguards we have in place," which I would love to know what those are. Please send me your safety manual. "It is absolutely critical that we work to ensure that our safety protocols and training remain as robust as possible and that our nurses have the support they need to safely care for patients." What do y'all think of that? That was it. Now, the second part of it is going to piss you off even more, because the day following that statement that they put out, they deleted all the job postings from their Facebook. It would have been better if they left them there and just held themselves accountable instead of trying to sneak and do something like that. Like, "Oh, it didn't happen. We didn't do that." At least say that you made a mistake. You messed up somewhere along the lines. It's that easy. But deleting it just shows you did something wrong. And we all now know you did something wrong. So we're going to move on. I did try to find a safety manual for Alara Caring. I know that some news outlet or media outlet was able to obtain a copy of it. But from what I could find online, it basically states, let me see if I can just pull it up really quick. And this is Alara Caring news from March 28, 2023. I will also try to post a link for this so you guys can see. It says how Alara Caring and VNS Health are keeping staff safe in the home. "Workplace violence in the home is very underreported and always has been," Andrea Devoti, Executive Vice President of the National Association for Home Care and Hospice, told Home Health Care News. So blah, blah, blah. It says that's why they are being proactive in implementing processes, programs, and training. What the fuck what are we supposed to do if somebody attacks us? This suspect was, keep in mind, 6'1", 200 pounds. What? Be fucking for real. Training. What are you going to do? Teach us Krav Maga? In a person's home, not only is the person more comfortable because they're in their own space, but you are subject to all the other things that revolve around their life, be it the people that live in the home, extended family members, pets or neighbors, blah, blah, blah. Which is interesting because if you look at previous home health nurse deaths or home health workers who have been killed on the job, a lot of the times it is a family member. I'm not sure what VNS Health is. Visiting nurse something. Okay. One of the ways the company supports its clinicians is a mobile app called Alert Media. A fucking app. The app provides safety monitoring, activation of the emergency alert system, as well as a panic alarm notification to local authorities. Has this been rolled out in Alara Caring, though? Like an app? Hold on, let me just grab my phone, because all of our phones have to have passwords on them because of patient confidentiality, our work phones. Hold on, please, sir. Wait to attack me. I need to open an app. Fuck off. VNS Health has also partnered with local anti-violence organizations to offer self-defense courses. I was right about the Krav Maga thing, as well as safety awareness courses on empowerment, defense, commuting, and transit safety. Really? The company offers online training to its clinicians through Care Connect, another app. We help them understand how to identify and report unsafe surroundings and share emergency reporting procedures with them. Plus, VNS Health gives clinicians access to escort services. Which kind? Now, I do have something to say about escort services in home health because of the fact that, like, they're not like if a patient has a known violent history, we have to still ask. Normally, it's not just something that is put in place. So that should be changed. And because Joyce was making a PRN visit or an as needed on the weekend, it was something that had just come up all of a sudden out of the blue. So I'm wondering, like, how available those services are on off hours. For Alara Caring puts workplace safety front and center. No. For Alara Caring, fortifying the company's risk and safety programs has been a key focus area in 2023. Front and center in that effort is our workplace violence prevention strategy. Betta Swanson, Chief Compliance and Privacy Officer at Alara Caring. Part of this effort was making a key hire earlier this year. Chris Corrigan joined Alara Caring as general counsel. What is this, the Mormon Church? Jesus. He has extensive experience in both risk and safety and also workplace violence prevention. As an organization, we have a zero tolerance policy towards workplace violence. The company has also has a workplace violence prevention program, and training is a major component. Training. So basically, the only person responsible for their safety in that company is the clinician. Let's put it all on the clinician's shoulders. Like, they don't have enough. So they're trained to assess the work environment for safety, how to control known hazards, how to anticipate and recognize new hazards, how to evaluate the risks that they pose, identifying warning signs of possible violence. Is a recent criminal history of a violent sex offender a known hazard that the company probably should have been proactive about and make him a joint visit every time? Yeah. Okay. Don't put your nurses in a situation where they need to be trained for this shit. Especially if they have a known background. If they have a known background, that's what bothers me about this, is he had a known background for being violent. Okay, he literally tried to kill somebody and he raped somebody. That's what he is on probation for. Actually, he had a probation violation. So he did a recent stint in jail and then got let out. Okay, and that and it's not like it wasn't recent. That incident that he got charged for was in 2019. So it's not like it wasn't forever ago and he had been doing fine. He had been doing fine for a couple of months. That's it. And then on the extreme end, escape and aggress if necessary. Okay. So you basically put everything on the employee's shoulders on how they should handle those situations. Got it. Just ensuring that we're all on the same page. Y'all don't do anything. Okay. Because training is such a big part of keeping the staff at Alara Caring safe, the company is focused on figuring out the most effective modes or methods of delivering that training. How about don't put it on the clinician? Then this involves a use of mixed in-person training and virtual training. The latter through Alara Caring's learning management system. The company also has an internal app where it posts news, information, and videos. They've also established safety committees where caregivers and clinicians discuss incidents that have occurred. Or factors that contributed to the incident. And strategies for preventing similar incidents. If there's a threat of violence against a clinician, if there's any sort of abuse, whether that be physical, verbal, whatever, clinicians should not be going back. And if they go back, they cannot go alone. There should be a joint visit with a police escort, because that is the warning sign. That is your warning sign. You're sending somebody back into a hostile environment. That is your warning sign. And if something happens to that clinician and you did not heed that warning sign, and this is all you did was, let's collaborate in this app to see what we can do to prevent it in the future. No, that's not what we're going to do. This isn't let's gaslight and blame employees because we put your safety at risk. And then they're working on a process for evaluating how effective its prevention policies and practices are. I'm going to give them a 0 out of 10 at this point. And then they say, we do have a good patient feedback loop to make sure that the incident is investigated and addressed appropriately, and that the impacted individuals immediately get wraparound support. If you work in healthcare, does that happen? Or do they just tell you to go talk to the chaplain? They are the boots on the ground, Swanson said. They're the ones who are seeing this and dealing with it day in and day out. Y'all don't care. And now, as of today, to wrap this up, there is nothing up to date. I have not seen any new charges brought on to the suspect who allegedly did this. I have not heard anything else from Alara Caring. I will continue to update as everything unfolds. I do know at this point that the family has lawyered up, which good for them, as they should. And we shall see. We shall see. Until then, get to follow, subscribe so that you can get the most up to date on this case as well. I will be following this. I think this is one that I will not let go because of the fact that it hits our own community. And when it comes to home health, there is so little focus on what happens to us. A lot of the legislation that is in regarding to violence against healthcare workers applies to hospitals, and sometimes even just specific departments in the hospital, not every department, which is odd. And clearly, we're at risk, highly at risk for workplace violence against us because of the fact that we are alone. We are alone in somebody's home or wherever they live. And what are we going to do? If something happens to us, we can't call for help. There's no panic button. There is no security to page. So if there is any questions, comments, or concerns that you have, please leave them down below. Like I said, I will continue to update on this case because this is one that touches home base for us. And Joyce was a wonderful, wonderful person. And the only way I can think to carry on her legacy is to try to advocate for our community of home health and hospice. And if you would like, you can also leave a message on the obituary for Joyce. I will try and also link that down below. And you can also leave a Google review for Alara Caring if you want. Just saying. But until then, stay safe, everybody. Love you so much. Have a good evening.